great catching up with you. How are you today?
Thank you and good morning.
Good morning. Welcome remarks by Dr. Akinwumi A. Adesina, the current president and chairman of the boards of directors of African Development Bank Group. He referred to the meeting as the final chapter of a remarkable decade of transformation. What do you make of this final chapter of a remarkable decade of transformation? Let's start there.
I think let's start by saying the Development Bank of Africa is an institution that for the last 20 years has really done a remarkable job. Access to capital, access to infrastructure. But I like what he said. He had 5 pillars of which he worked along with, one of which was power the continent, feed the continent, integrate the continent, and then bring together what we call development that will be able to industrialize the continent. The achievement of that can be seen in 2 ways. First, since he came in, he has happened to grow the capital asset base from almost 100 billion to over 500 billion in 10 years, if that's the case. And then he has come up with a fund, I believe, that has empowered a lot of people. Where I would have stood him, if I were to be able to see him, there was one pillar he should have included, empower women in the continent. Because to me, until our women have the power to build, they are capable to do as much as men do, we're going to have a lot of issues going forward. But however, I must commend him. His statement is very genuine. His honest is correct. And we cannot afford to work less than double our effort if we have to get this continent where we want it to be.
5 candidates, 81 members, and the countries represented by those candidates are South Africa, Chad, Senegal, Zambia, and Mauritania. As Adesina steps down this September, what percentage of the votes will the winner need to garner to secure the position of president?
I think on average, first of all, they would want to have what we call outright majority, which is okay, or 2/3. That's what people do. But at this stage, it is highly negotiated. And what I don't understand about the continent is, first of all, if you look at it, the last 10 years, the IMF has been run by the bank, by women. First, the central bank governor of Europe, Ms. Kagwad, is a French lady, was the IMF head. Now the current head is also a woman. Why don't African people realize, until we show our children women are equally powerful? All those candidates, I know for sure, they are of excellent academic credentials, have been tested across the board. You can't be fronted into that kind of institution without literally brain and a half. Now that we are seeing a lady who is very qualified, and I'm not saying she should be elected because she comes from South Africa. It should be literally a no bargain. Should we let's give this lady a chance, because the last president was from Rwanda. Before then, I think, was from West Africa, and we need somebody to say our women need to be given a chance to carry the mission forward.
As we say that, if a woman does lead this time around, her biggest challenge will be tackling the changing global economy after what we're seeing the U.S. President Donald Trump moving towards. So in what ways could she be better suited to approach this global challenge?
First and foremost, I think I come from an economic history. I started in the U.S. in the 1980s when we used to work very hard. There is so much emphasis on giving this man called Mr. President of the United States so much credit. The answer is simple, literally. The world is bigger than an individual, no matter what you see it on. I like what Warren Buffett said. Warren Buffett is 94, one of the richest men in the universe. He said, I quote, "It can't be. We 330 million people could determine the future of 7 billion people going forward. We got to realize that if they do well, we all do well. Failure to do that, we are all going to be able in the same quagmire." That's one. The second aspect is that the continent has the most vibrant youth. The media platform is accelerating growth at supersonic rate. And if you look at it, which is people should always watch, About 25 years ago, this country called China did not count in any equation of economic might. Today, it is predicted in the next 1 decade they will have a higher GDP of a 30 trillion against the United States. So what I'm trying to say is that anybody who is sitting somewhere saying development should not worry too much about the cutting of aid. To me, indirectly or directly, I would argue, if somebody says be self-sufficient, it's not insulting you. It's telling you live within your means. And therefore, I'm seeing that as a trigger to mankind to wake up to say dependency on that which is yours may not necessarily be sustainable. And that's basically economic common sense. What I'm saying is we have a World African Development Bank with over 320 billion capital, and it's bound to be able to realize they can squeeze a little bit, redirect their resources differently, and therefore they will be able to come over the cutting that there is coming. And that to me would make the lady who comes in to be able to work harder, except there is only one pillar we need to put: empower women and create opportunities for youth in technology.
Let's go back to the point you make. During the 10 years of Adesina's tenure, if you look at the successes achieved, the bank achieved the largest capital increase in its history, raising the capital of the bank from $93 billion to $320 billion. And also the fund you touched on, the African Development Fund, $8.9 billion were raised to replenish that fund there. Firstly, what would you attribute these successes to? And moving forward, what's needed to continue this trajectory?
I think first, we are seeing, despite the challenges, the continent itself growing. And as you have seen over the last 10 years, the African GDP has increased by almost over $500 billion, if not more. That's number one. Number two, technology has become a way of generating wealth indirectly. In other words, I'm saying when you can fast track the productivity, then you create money faster than what used to be a decade earlier. What we always say is that velocity of money in itself generates wealth, and therefore technology has made sure that things are moving very fast. And that the third one is that we have seen our youth growing equally very fast, and the consumption of the youth is also very high. What I'm saying is that there is what we call a ripple effect, or so many factors that worked in his favor. But also, he's a very brilliant man. That may call a spade a spade. If you read his speeches, he has that commitment of passion. He says, this is not a job. Don't come here saying you are looking for a job. This is a mission. It's a calling. It's something that you breathe, you wake up, you think about it. And if the team around him were to think that way, of course, they would be able to achieve faster. But equally important, if I'm not mistaken, his relationship with the bank and IMF has been very relatively amicable, not confrontational, and of course, people have delivered. I think in totality, I summarize what I have seen. It's not easy to raise capital from 93 billion to over 500 billion in 10 years without having a little bit of luck. 3, with factors, like I stated earlier, that have attributed to that.
Let's talk Feeding Africa, which is one of the bank's strategies. How should the bank contribute now to the strategy of Feeding Africa? 104 million people are now food secure because of its efforts. What should the bank be looking at in terms of this particular strategy?
I think the first one, like I said, is collaborate. Is collaborate with institutions, collaborate with the government, and make sure that we have enough resources that we can be able to produce food to feed the whole continent. We need to conserve water. We need to be able to understand that we don't have, although we have enough resources, they are not unlimited. And conservation and making sure that we direct resources to the productivity area will be good. The second one is this African free trade. If we were to trade effectively as we would wish, and goods and services flow without too much bureaucracy, we'll have something in economic we call comparative advantage, in which case we are saying countries like Zambia, who can grow a lot of corn, can be able to grow corn, don't dwell on much else, and let other countries that can grow probably wheat, grow wheat. As long as they are flowing across the board, the boundaries will be able to achieve a higher productivity than otherwise. And then the other one is always to think that what we say in economics, is it possible to specialize even if locally, rather than to have multiplicity of different crops, rather than grow that which we have among ourselves. And then finally is to think about food security. Food security means don't think about today. Don't think about tomorrow. Think about 10 years. On the short term, you can argue, let's feed our people for now, but let's make sure they have food in 3 years.
Right.
Those are the clear thinking that economists are supposed to do and drive and keep on encouraging for people to implement.
Thanks again, Dr. Karungu. We appreciate your time here on Channel Africa.
Thank you so much and have a good day.
You too. Dr. Peter Karungu is businessman, economist, and professor at the Durban University of Technology. Well, all eyes would be on that African Development Bank Group as they look to elect a new leader. I think the announcement will be made on Thursday, voting happening tomorrow. Stay with us on Channel Africa as we give you more coverage on that story. It's 31 minutes past 8. Let's get our news headlines. Here's Jwalani Tulo Mwebe.